In this video, we're going to cover some debugging techniques for the Raspberry Pi as well as the MX chip. As you can see here, I have VNC Viewer installed and up and running. And I have a Raspberry Pi option here. Let's double click on that and we'll launch VNC Viewer. Notice we're connected to the actual Raspberry Pi device over the network. A lot of people will write code directly through VNC on their system, on their device, but I find that a little clunky, and I would rather use Visual Studio Code on my desktop, which is a much more powerful machine. But this is an option for you if you wish to do so. Now let's take a look at a simple app that I have written. We have a couple includes, and the wiring is just to include the delay. There's a function in the header file for that. So we have a printf function call, and we're going to print out iterations and then a new line break. And then in this for loop, we're going to print out the I variable, which will be between 0 and 9, and we're going to delay for half a second in between each one of those. And that's important to note because it's not going to appear in real time. It'll appear all the way at the end. It'll have a big chunk of output. So let's run that. Launched the deploy script, and it's building and running on the target machine. And you notice it popped up all at once. We have iterations 0 through 9 here, and it appeared instantaneously. So while this isn't ideal, it's not real-time debugging. We don't have any breakpoints. We do have some logging that we can print out to the screen. So if you're debugging something, you can just print out a bunch of stuff, and you can wade through that and try to figure out what the problem is on that. And for this next piece, we are going to debug on the MX chip. I've written another simple application. We have a count variable and a buffer. And what we're going to do is we're going to initialize the screen, and then we're going to loop on the loop method. We're going to print out iteration, and then we're going to print out the count. And then at the very last line here on the loop before we exit the method is we're going to increment the count variable. We could have done that in one line here, count plus plus. Sometimes I find it a little clearer though to be explicit about when we're incrementing a variable. Let's go ahead and run that. I hit F5 and it's building and deploying to the MX chip. Since we're on a USB connection and it's simulating COM3 down here in the bottom, it's real-time debugging. So the display is iterating. It's up to 300. Let's go ahead and set a breakpoint right here on line 14. Okay, stopped it there. Let's hover over count, and we have 440. Another thing we can do is we can add a watch. Here's 440. Let's hit F5. 441, 442. You can see you can keep going through that. This is a much richer debugging environment, and it will allow you to be able to track problems a lot easier. So in this video, we showed you a couple different ways on debugging MX chip and the Raspberry Pi.